My name is Cameron. I'm a keeper here at the Houston Zoo in the Natural Encounters building, and in just a little bit we'll be going live with Curly, our Lynn's two-toed sloth. Curly's dramatic exit from his crate. He doesn't live in the crate all the time. That's where he likes to sleep, and so that's also what we like to use to move him around to different parts of the building. Normally he lives in one of our behind the scenes areas and comes out for programs and also does behind the scenes tours with guests. So like I said earlier, Curly is a Lynn's two-toed sloth, and you might notice that some of his feet have 2 toes, but some have 3 toes. So for sloths, we count the toes on the front feet. So you'll see he has 2 toes on his front feet, and that's why we call him a two-toed sloth. All sloths have 3 toes on their hind feet. So their toes are really mostly these long curved claws that lets them manipulate branches in the wild and hold on to things. They have very strong feet, so they're able to hang upside down like this because when a sloth is relaxed, their feet grab onto things naturally, so it doesn't take any energy at all for them to hold on like he is. So Curly is enjoying part of his diet here at the zoo, which is mostly fruits and veggies. He definitely has his favorites. So to answer the question, is his hair soft? Curly's hair is pretty soft because he gets some flaxseed oil supplement, but that's relative to other types of sloths. In general, sloths have pretty coarse hair. Each hair has a groove on it that is meant to, in the wild, would grow algae and would kind of form its own little ecosystem. So their hair is long and kind of coarse. He does sleep upside down, kind of upside down. Sloths like to curl up in the crooks or forks of trees, so they usually sleep in their backs. They can sleep upside down, and they spend almost all of their time upside down, hanging from a tree, similar to what Curly's doing now. Sloths do go down to the ground to go to the bathroom to poop, and they also are very good swimmers. They can kind of breaststroke across water, and they can travel across land right side up, but it's difficult for them because they're really developed to swim, to hang upside down. So Dixie asks, where did you get his name? We got his name from, he already had it when he came to Houston Zoo. He came here from the Lincoln Children's Zoo in Nebraska. So he already had his name. It might be because his fur is this beautiful, curly, wavy texture. So Curly is 24 years old, by the way. That is kind of middle-aged for a sloth. From Vanessa, hi Vanessa, how sharp and long are his claws? So his claws are not sharp. They are like 3 to 4 inches long, and they're not sharp. Sloths use their claws to manipulate and to hold on to. They can kind of use their feet in self-defense, like they'll swing their arms and swipe. But their real defense is these big teeth you can see when he's chewing. Those look like really sharp canine teeth. They are very sharp. They are molars, and they sharpen themselves as he's eating. So that's what they'll use to defend themselves. A sloth will try not to defend itself if it can, because they can get tired easily. So even though sloths are known for being slow, when they're trying to get away from something, they can go through the trees really quickly to get away. He's got a little itch in his mouth.
Excuse me, guys.
Okay, from Genesis, where do they live in the wild? So two-toed sloths like Curly live in cloud forests and tropical forests in South America. They can be found in Venezuela and some parts of Brazil and Ecuador and some other countries around there. But they really live in forests. I think he fixed his itchy mouth. So you might be able to see that his nose is very, very wet. Sloths really can only sweat through their nose. So when he's excited or when Curly's doing something where he's busy, like eating a lot of food in a row like now, they actually sweat from their nose, so his nose gets all wet. From Ellie. So hi Ellie. So the question is, how old do sloths get? So sloths, supposedly, they say sloths live into their 30s, but many sloths can get a lot older than that. So upper 30s to probably late 40s is how long they live when they're at a zoo like the Houston Zoo. Many of you are familiar with Succotash, our sloth that lives on the indoor exhibit, and she's about 46. So they can get pretty old. So Curly's eating some of his favorite foods. In the wild, two-toed sloths like Curly would eat a lot of leaves and a lot of vegetation. Because they eat mostly plants and they have a low metabolism, they need to take an extra long time to digest their food. So sloths have a unique stomach. It's similar to cows. They have 4 chambers in their stomach, and food slowly moves through their stomachs. It can take a month for some types of food to be digested. How many species of sloth? I don't know the answer right off the top of my head. We have 2 species of sloth at the Houston Zoo. So we have Linnaeus or Lynn's two-toed sloth, like what Curly is. We have a Hoffman's two-toed sloth. There are also a few species of 3-toed sloths. There are 4 species of 3-toed sloths. They're the ones that are much smaller. They have a dark line over their eyes. So there are quite a few species of sloths. What are their predators? Good question from Kat. So sloths are very strong. So their predators are also very strong. Jaguars are a predator. Harpy eagles are two of their main predators. They also are unfortunately taken out of the wild by humans as pets. Not recommended. So those are their main predators. Sloths are not really hunted by people because when they will just stay up in the tree. So harpy eagles and jaguars are 2 of their main predators. From Aubrey, do they live alone or in groups? So a little bit of both. Sloths are really solitary animals. They like to choose their tree and kind of stay there. But you will find sloths living near each other. So they can kind of live in groups, but those groups aren't truly social groups. So a sloth is just as happy living by itself as it is living near other sloths. When they have their young, the young does stay with the mom for anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. And then the mom will usually leave, but they'll sometimes come back and live in the same area. So another cool thing about sloths, is we were talking about their fur earlier, and you might be able to see that his fur kind of grows in a weird way from what we're used to. So since sloths are hanging upside down all the time and they live in areas that are very wet, like rainforests, their fur grows from the middle of their belly and it all grows down towards the ground so that when it rains, water will run off of him and they won't be as wet otherwise. From Tiffany, are they nocturnal? Yes, so sloths are nocturnal. They spend most of their time sleeping during the day, from 15 to 18 hours a day, and the rest of the time they're foraging. Wild sloths are fully nocturnal, where they wake up and look for food and forage for their leaves and things. Curly here is used to us being awake during the day, and so he's a little bit more variable. He's still more active at night than during the day. He'll go back to his home after this and fall back asleep. From Chloe, how big are the babies when they're born? So a baby sloth is, I don't know, like 6 to 8, or probably about 8 inches long when they're born. And then they'll climb up and cling to the mom. So sloths give birth in a tree, hanging just like Curly is. Curly is a boy. I don't know if I've said that yet. But the mom sloths, when they give birth, they have to reach and grab their baby sloth and pull it onto their belly. And then that sloth will continue to hold on to the mom. So here's Curly showing off his strong abdominal muscles. Even though sloths move very slowly, they are still very strong. How long is the pregnancy? That was from Monica. So the sloth gestation is,
depending on the species, it's anywhere from 6 months to 12 months.
Yeah. So I think for Lynn's two-toed sloths, it's about 10 months. But yeah, it does depend on the species. So this is one of Curly's favorite foods, is hard-boiled egg. In the wild, sloths would sometimes eat bird eggs or other small animals that they find, sometimes by accident. But Curly really loves his hard-boiled egg. He also loves grapes and sweet potato and cherry tomatoes are some of his favorite things. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, but Aylin, how do they use the restroom from the trees? So it might be kind of hard to picture, but sloths do live in trees their whole life. To use the restroom, they climb down to the ground. And because that can be sort of dangerous for a sloth, they don't do it very often. They also have a slow metabolism, so they don't have to go to the bathroom very often. And they have a very large bladder that can hold about a gallon at a time. So to go to the bathroom, though, they find a branch or climb down the tree to the ground. They can hang from a branch that's really close to the ground, or sometimes they'll just even sit on the ground, go to the bathroom, and then go back up in the tree as soon as they're done. Our sloths go about every 6 days, but in the wild, it can be a week or two between when they have to go down to the ground. Jillian, are sloths related to any other animal? So yes, there's a group of animals called xenarthans that are all related, and they are, so he's cleaning his toes. So xenarthans are sloths, armadillos, and anteaters, all in the same group of animals. And they have some things in common having to do with their necks and their body temperature. They all have pretty low body temperature, low metabolisms. But yeah, those are all the animals that are the most closely related to sloths. All right, from Amelie, does Curly like being around people? So that's a really great question. So sloths in the wild wouldn't like being around people, but Curly does like being around people partly because he's grown up with being around humans. He was never a wild sloth. Most zoos try not to take animals that are wild animals anymore. So he grew up around people, and he's always had very positive interactions, you know, like we're doing now, where we're feeding him and he just kind of gets to hang around and do what he wants to do. So he does like being around people. A lot of times he'll start being more active when he hears people around, or come out and see what we're doing when he hears us moving around the area, because he has a positive association with being around people. That doesn't mean that he likes to be touched, or that we can go in and, you know, pet him or play with him. Those are things that we have to separately teach him are different. So we can touch Curly, but we don't pet him or play with him, because that's not something that sloths really like to do. All right, so it looks like Curly has decided that he's ready to go back home. We always let our animals decide when they're done interacting with our guests and with us. So he's going to slowly make his dramatic exit back into his crate. Thank you for joining us on Facebook Live. If you're wondering how you can support the zoo right now, watching Facebook Live is awesome. Visiting our website, we do have an emergency zoo fund. If you want to visit our website, it's right there on the front page. And join us Monday at 11 a.m. for more Facebook Live.